Have you ever stood in front of your closet, sleeves brushing fingertips, eyes drifting across the quiet tones of fabric, and paused not to ask what looks best, but what feels right? Not just for style, but for something deeper. What if every outfit you wear isn't just clothing? It's a quiet declaration, a frequency, a permission slip to energy that says, this is who I am today. This is what I'm ready to receive. Because whether we admit it or not, color speaks first. Before words, before posture, before strategy. Color speaks to others, to space, and perhaps most importantly, to the energy waiting to support or challenge us. And here's the quiet question no one asks. What if the color of your shirt, not your resume, not your bank account, was already whispering to your fortune? Not shouting, not controlling, just nudging, guiding, aligning. In the wisdom traditions that birthed Feng Shui, not as interior design but as environmental dialogue, color is not for decoration. It's for direction. Red does not simply pop, it burns. Green doesn't just soften, it grows. White doesn't just clean, it clears the air for clarity to walk in. And when you choose a color in the morning, intentionally or not, you are choosing a field of energy to walk inside all day. This isn't about superstition. This isn't about fortune telling. This is about subtle alignment between your inner rhythm and the frequencies of the world around you, between your personal season and the energetic tone you quietly carry. In today's video, we'll step beyond fashion rules or Instagram aesthetics. We'll explore what it means to wear color consciously and how simple shifts in your daily palette can support the flow of abundance, clarity, and ease in your life. We'll walk through 5 foundational tones, each one rooted in classical Feng Shui elements, each one linked to emotion, momentum, and real-life shifts that can be seen, not just believed. And if this idea already stirs something in you, if you've ever felt drawn to a certain color without knowing why, or avoided one without knowing what it was trying to teach you, then I invite you to stay. There is something in this for you. And before we begin, if reflections like these bring value to your life, I warmly invite you to support this quiet journey. Please like, share, and subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. We're walking slowly toward 1,000 followers, not to chase numbers, but to reach the threshold where this kind of content can be shared with more hearts and more homes. You won't find loud promises here, just grounded wisdom, quiet insight, and gentle clarity that meets you where you are. Now, let's open the closet again. Not to impress, but to align. What colors have been calling you lately, and what are they trying to prepare you for? 1. Color is energy, not appearance. We've been taught that color is something to be seen, but in the oldest lineages of spatial wisdom, color is something to be felt. To most, red is bold, black is slimming, white is crisp, green is calming. And while none of these surface interpretations are wrong, they barely scratch the surface. They describe how we look in color, not how we live in it. But in the 5-element system, drawn from classical Feng Shui and ancient Taoist cosmology, color is not a matter of style. It's a matter of elemental resonance. It is energy you wear. It is qi you wrap around your body. And just as architecture can block or move energy, so too can the fabric you drape across your skin. Imagine this. Every morning as you reach for a shirt, a jacket, a scarf, something is also reaching back. The fibers are not just cotton or wool or silk. They are tonal messengers. Red ignites, green nourishes, yellow grounds, blue dissolves, white clears. So what message are you carrying when you walk into your day? In classical Feng Shui, each color is not aesthetic, it is elemental. Red belongs to fire. It represents visibility, boldness, transformation. It is associated with joy, fame, the heart. And it does not whisper, it declares. Wearing red when you are ready to stand out makes sense. But what happens when you wear red while emotionally raw, uncertain, or anxious? The fire burns you first. It accelerates before you've built the engine. Black, on the other hand, belongs to water. Deep, introspective, private. It is wisdom, it is mystery, and sometimes it is fear. We often reach for black when we want to disappear, or feel in control, it cloaks us in silence. In some spaces, this is powerful, but worn too often, especially by those already navigating confusion or stagnation, it can feel like armor that's forgotten its purpose. White is the color of metal, precision, clarity, discipline. It reflects everything, absorbs nothing. In medicine, it sterilizes. In ritual, it purifies. And in clothing, it often signals a fresh start, a clean boundary, a reset. But white can also isolate. It can over-sharpen. In spaces that need warmth, too much white can cut. Green is wood, expansion, growth, vision. It speaks of spring, of beginning again. Green is flexible. It reaches. It stretches toward light, even when it has no map. And wearing green when initiating projects, seeking clarity, or recovering from burnout can feel like watering your own roots. But green asks for movement. It is not a color to wear when you plan to sit still. Yellow belongs to earth, stability, nourishment, patience. It is the color of the harvest, of long summers, of digestion, physical and emotional. Yellow does not rush. It gathers, it absorbs, it integrates. Worn by someone trying to recover their center or reground their finances, yellow whispers, "I am not in a hurry, but I am ready to be full again." These aren't fashion rules. These are energetic dialogues. And if you listen closely, not to the trends, not to the catalogs, but to yourself, you'll begin to notice a pattern. The colors you avoid may be the ones your system is resisting. The ones you wear obsessively may be the ones your energy is clinging to, unsure how to release. Let's pause here for a moment. How many times have you reached for black, not because it energized you, but because it kept you safe? How many times have you worn red, not because you wanted attention, but because you were afraid of being forgotten? How many times have you dressed in all neutrals, not out of elegance, but out of exhaustion? This is not criticism. This is reflection. And in Feng Shui, reflection is everything. Now let's look at these color archetypes from another angle. Not just their elements, but their emotional behavior and how they affect the financial flow in your life. Take black. People who frequently wear black often describe themselves as focused, professional, serious, but they also tend to suppress emotion, avoid confrontation, and carry unresolved grief. Black contains. It is the energy of a sealed vault. When your finances feel locked, when money doesn't seem to move, too much black in your wardrobe may be mirroring that state. It's not causing it, but it's certainly echoing it. In one consultation, a woman who had worn all black for years due to her job in law reported that she felt frozen in time. Her career had plateaued, her relationships stagnated, and her creativity disappeared. Together, we slowly introduced navy, then olive, then burgundy, toned versions of movement. Within months, she wasn't just promoted, she began painting again. Not because the color changed her fate, but because it made her remember it wasn't sealed. Now consider red. It's the color of confidence and courage. And in small doses, like a scarf, a towel, a bracelet, it can be like striking a match in the dark. But when overused, it overstimulates. In Feng Shui, too much fire burns your wood, the part of you that needs to grow. A restaurant owner once asked me why business always spiked after he wore red to networking events, but then crashed in the days that followed. The answer wasn't mystical, it was metabolic. Red drew attention, but he didn't have the systems or the team to hold that attention, so it turned to burnout. After shifting to burgundy, a grounded red, and pairing it with earth-toned shirts, his momentum stabilized. He was still visible, but he was no longer on fire. White, the so-called color of clarity, is interesting too. It clears, but it also repels. People often wear white when they need space, but too much white creates coldness. In homes, too much white creates the feeling of a gallery, not a sanctuary. On the body, it can do the same. A client in corporate leadership who wore all white and silver jewelry shared that she felt respected, but distant, admired, but untouched. By simply integrating soft taupes and muted golds, still clean but warmer, she noticed not only more collaboration at work, but more softness at home. And then there is yellow. Ah, yellow. It is often dismissed as childish, unserious. But yellow is earth, and earth is where everything begins again. A therapist I once knew wore pale yellow every Friday. Not mustard, not neon, just a soft, buttery tone. When asked why, she smiled and said, "It helps people feel like the conversation can settle." Yellow doesn't push, it receives. And for those healing financial wounds, self-doubt, or long-term instability, yellow can be the thread that begins to hold things back together, not loudly, but faithfully. So what does this all mean? Practically, it means the next time you open your closet, pause. Ask not just what looks good, but what feels aligned. Do you need to be seen today or held? Do you need movement or containment? Do you need to call energy in or let it breathe? And remember, none of this is rigid. You are not forbidden from wearing black. You are not required to wear red on Tuesdays. You are simply being invited to tune in, because what you wear matters, not to the world, but to your field, to the way you carry yourself, the way you make decisions, the way you meet your own reflection in the mirror and ask, am I dressing for my current self or my future one? And in Feng Shui, that future is already listening. It's just waiting for you to speak, in color. 2. White, the frequency of fresh clarity. White in many ways is the most misunderstood color in the energetic spectrum. People think of it as absence, as neutrality, as the blank canvas before color enters. But in the 5-element system of classical Feng Shui, white is not absence. It is precision. It is focus. It is the distillation of all things down to their sharpest, clearest point. White is not the absence of sound. It is the moment you pause before speaking. In this framework, white belongs to metal, the element of discernment, of structure, of judgment and wisdom that has been honed, not guessed. Metal is not the impulsive yes. It is the quiet no. It is the strength that says, this is enough. And when you wear white, when you invite it into your space or your wardrobe, you are not inviting blankness. You are inviting refinement. You are aligning with the frequency of clean decisions. It is no accident that white robes are used in ceremonial practice, both East and West. In the East, white is worn in mourning, not because it is sorrowful, but because it marks the time of reflection, of detachment from the physical, of clarity before reincorporation. In the West, brides wear white not as purity in the moral sense, but as symbolic readiness for transformation. In both cases, white becomes the threshold, a visual and energetic signpost that says, something is about to begin. In modern life, this resonance continues, even when most people are unaware of it. Think of the world's most influential leaders, CEOs in crisp white shirts announcing new ventures, politicians addressing nations not in color, but in stark, unadorned white, spiritual figures delivering teachings from altars dressed in ivory and pearl. It is not just decorum, it is architecture. A white shirt becomes a vessel, less about style, more about message. It clears the noise so that the words land with more weight. A founder I once worked with, let's call her Min, was in the early stages of pitching her tech company. Young Vietnamese American, and one of the only women in her startup cohort, she often struggled to feel heard in rooms where older male investors dominated the energy. At first, she tried red, then navy, then trendy designer prints. Each time she said she felt like she was trying to be loud in a room that had already made up its mind. Then one morning before a pitch, she reached for a freshly pressed white blouse. Not fitted, not flashy, just clean. When she walked into the room that day, she said no one interrupted her. She wasn't louder. She was clearer. It felt like I brought a blank canvas, she told me, and they listened like I was painting on it. She continued this practice, not because it became her lucky color, but because it became her ritual of reset. She wore white every time she entered a new conversation, not to be seen, but to start from silence, to hold space, not fill it. This is what white teaches us in Feng Shui. It is not the energy of seeking, it is the energy of readiness. Wearing white says, I've cleared distraction, I've emptied noise, now I can perceive what's true. White's connection to metal also relates to money, but not the fast, fiery kind. Not the windfall, not the gamble. Metal governs organized wealth. In Chinese cosmology, it is associated with the West, with autumn, with the harvesting of what has been slowly, patiently grown. White is not the color of momentum. It is the color of maintenance, of review, of strategic pause. That's why white is especially powerful during times of negotiation or decision-making. You don't wear white when you want to impress. You wear it when you want to sharpen, to distill, to sense what's necessary and strip away what's not. But not all whites are equal. In energetic terms, the vibrancy and quality of white matters. Soft, worn white, like the linen of old summer shirts, feels different from the surgical brightness of bleached cotton. Off-white, cream, and ivory still hold metal energy, but they add warmth, gentleness. These are useful when your clarity needs to feel less severe, more invitational. Pairing white with gold, a yang metal combination, brings in the energy of royal command. White with black, metal, and water becomes formal, but also emotionally distant. White with red, metal, and fire can either balance or clash, depending on who wears it and why. So how do we use white consciously, not performatively? Begin by asking what kind of clarity you need. Are you preparing for an important meeting where your voice must hold weight without force? White, perhaps with light gray or pale taupe, can help contain nervousness and project calm authority. Are you launching a new project, stepping into a new identity? Wearing white in this threshold moment can symbolize your own willingness to be empty of the past and receptive to new structure. Are you in a period of transition, feeling emotionally scattered or fatigued? Wearing white intentionally, even at home, can help you mentally file away what's no longer needed. It draws psychic boundaries without harshness. But white is not for every day. Wearing white constantly can sterilize joy. It can dull creativity. People who wear only white, especially in pursuit of minimalism, often report feeling detached, isolated, even lonely over time. Too much metal cuts. It refines, yes, but it also restricts. In Feng Shui, metal is needed, but always balanced by earth, yellow grounding, water, black, reflection, or fire, red, vitality. So if you find yourself defaulting to white every day, consider pairing it with textures that breathe, or accessories that soften. Let white become your frame, not your whole painting. Let's return briefly to Min, the startup founder. After several months of white shirts, she began adding pale blue scarves, water to her metal, then gold bracelets, yang metal for momentum. Finally, on the day of her Series A announcement, she wore a soft white blouse, ivory blazer, and pale green earrings. Wood energy, growth. The next chapter. Her outfit didn't say, "Look at me." It said, "I know where I'm going." This is what the conscious use of color does, not just in a room, but on a body. It shifts how we enter space, how we absorb space, how space responds. So if you find yourself at a crossroads, career, relationship, financial, a moment where you must choose wisely and speak clearly, reach for white, not to disappear, but to declutter the noise, to remind yourself, clarity is not found, it's created, it's chosen. And white, more than any other color, holds the quiet discipline to choose it. That is its magic, not superstition, not symbol, but space, pure space. 3. Brown, the color of reliable wealth. Brown is often overlooked. In color psychology, in design, in the modern palette of visual appeal, it is rarely celebrated. Not striking like red, not serene like blue, not clean like white. And yet, in Feng Shui and classical 5-element theory, brown may be one of the most stabilizing energies you can wear. Bring into your space, or lean into when your world feels like it's moving too fast. It is the tone of soil, of bark, of aged wood and dried leaves and the quiet trails that carry generations of footsteps. It is not the color of breakthroughs, but of what those breakthroughs must stand on if they are to last. In the 5-element system, brown belongs to the earth element, the center. Earth doesn't chase, it doesn't rise and fall, it holds, it nourishes, It takes in what has been shed, composts it, and turns it, slowly, patiently, into new life. Brown is what waits underneath every seed, whispering, "Take root, I'll carry you." This is the energy we invoke when we wear brown, surround ourselves with it, or work with it intentionally in our lives. It is the energy of long-term plans, of rebuilding, of choosing a pace that matches our capacity, not our ambition. In a culture obsessed with acceleration, brown brings us back to something older, something more organic, the rhythm of steady accumulation. If you are in a phase of financial uncertainty, perhaps recovering from debt, rebuilding after a career change, or shifting from instability to structure, brown is not just a neutral tone to look professional. It is a message to your body, to your space, to your energy field. Slow is safe. Slow builds something. It is not laziness. It is sustainability. I remember a client, a small cafe owner in Northern California, who had always painted her bakery in bright hues, coral walls, turquoise stools, golden signage. "It's fun," she'd say. "People like the energy." And for a time it worked. There was buzz, movement, popularity. But over the years, she noticed a pattern. People came in waves. Her cash flow was erratic. Staff turnover was high. The space felt always on. During the pandemic, she was forced to shut down temporarily. When she reopened, she made one subtle change. She painted the walls a soft, warm brown. Not dark, not chocolate, just the color of stone-ground flour. It felt weird at first, she told me. Less exciting, but over time, people stayed longer, spent more, asked about our story. Something about it just made everything feel more rooted. That's what brown does. It doesn't shout, it doesn't persuade, it holds. In clothing, brown is one of the most misunderstood tones. People often avoid it because they fear it's dull, unfashionable, or too heavy. But brown, especially in natural fibers like cotton, wool, linen, or leather, has an anchoring quality that almost no other color can replicate. It absorbs. It doesn't reflect light like white or dazzle like red. Instead, it draws energy inward. It makes others feel at ease, makes the wearer seem grounded, dependable, safe. That's why brown is so useful during periods of recalibration. If you are restructuring your budget, launching a long-term business plan, or working to shift your relationship with money from scarcity to sustainability, brown becomes a quiet ally. It supports routines, habits, realism. It's not the color of dreaming, it's the color of doing. Not fast, but faithful. Not flashy, but functional. Brown is also powerful in home environments where energy tends to scatter. Kitchens with too much metal, bedrooms dominated by white or glass, workspaces with chaotic color schemes. These all benefit from the quiet weight of brown. A wooden table, a wool rug, a clay pot. These are not luxury items, but they carry a kind of wisdom, an invitation to slow down, to sit, to stay. Brown is especially supportive in areas of the home tied to earth energy. The center, the southwest, relationships, and the northeast, knowledge and self-cultivation. A brown stone in the knowledge area is not just aesthetic, it grounds your thoughts. A brown ceramic jar in the center of your home reminds the space to return to its axis. These are not superstitions, they are subtle spatial cues. And your nervous system responds even when your intellect does not. In personal wear, the variation of brown you choose can mirror the type of foundation you're building. Light camel or taupe signals, warmth and gentle support. Chocolate and espresso tones speak of depth and certainty. Rust and ochre evoke the clay-rich earth of ancient villages, stable, sun-kissed, storied. The texture of brown matters too. A crisp brown blazer can convey seriousness and reliability in a job interview. A soft brown sweater may help you feel emotionally safe during vulnerable conversations. A pair of well-worn leather shoes grounds you during days of decision-making, connecting you quite literally to the floor. Brown doesn't have to be the main event. Even small accents can anchor your energy. A brown belt during a speech, a wooden bracelet during negotiation, a clay mug during morning meditation. In Feng Shui, earth nourishes metal. This means that if you're trying to cultivate financial structure, metal, You need earth first. Just as a metal blade dulls when it hits stone too quickly, money habits don't hold if they're built on instability. Brown creates that cushion. It says, I am ready to hold. I'm not chase, not react, just hold. I once knew a financial coach in Arizona who wore brown whenever he did deep budget reviews with clients. People come in nervous, he said, but when I'm in brown, they relax. They know we're not about big promises. We're about building something that lasts. Brown doesn't make bold entrances, but it holds the stage. It is not the hero in the story, but it is the soil that feeds every hero's journey. In the body, earth governs the stomach and spleen, the systems of digestion and assimilation. Wearing brown, eating foods in brown tones, whole grains, root vegetables, teas, or decorating with earthy textures supports not just physical digestion, but energetic digestion. That means you're better equipped to process not just food, but emotion, not just income, but opportunity. It supports presence. So if you're in a phase where life feels unsteady, if your financial flow is unreliable, your habits inconsistent, your energy pulled in too many directions, don't ask for acceleration. Ask for support. Don't reach for red, reach for brown. Not because it will change your life overnight, but because it will give your life the structure to change from within. Wear brown on days when you're laying foundations, when you're signing contracts, when you're canceling subscriptions, when you're packing boxes, paying off cards, filing papers, or planting seeds. That's what brown is for. It's for the unglamorous days that build the future. The world may not notice, but energy will. Energy always notices what you are ready to carry, and brown, like the earth it represents, is always ready to help you carry it well. 4. Green. Growth without aggression. There is a kind of wealth that isn't earned, but grown. A wealth of health, of timing, of creativity, of renewal. And if there is one color that embodies this subtle, generative abundance, it is green. In classical Feng Shui, green belongs to the wood element. And wood, among the 5 elements, is the one that knows how to begin. It is the element of spring, of upright motion, of shoots that pierce through hard earth, not with force, but with insistence. Green, then, is not just a color. It is a direction. It tells the body, rise without rushing, move without snapping, grow without leaving your roots. Many people associate green with prosperity because of its link to money in modern cultures. Paper bills, financial graphs, the green light to move forward. But beneath that superficial symbolism, green in its elemental sense is not about capital, it's about capacity. It's not how much you have, it's how much more you're ready to become. That's why green is such a powerful ally during times of recovery, expansion, or recalibration. It doesn't demand momentum, it invites it. Green reminds us that healing is not a pause from success. It is the soil that makes it possible. That rest is not the opposite of growth, but it's prerequisite. There was a freelance designer I once worked with, someone talented, experienced, and quietly exhausted. After years of fast-paced contracts and demanding clients, she found herself depleted. I wasn't burned out, she told me. I was used up. She took a short break, nothing dramatic, no sabbatical, no retreat, just time. Time to sleep, to sketch without a deadline, to rearrange her space. And when she returned to work, she did one small thing differently. She began wearing green. Forest green blouses, soft sage sweaters, even a muted olive scarf. I didn't do it on purpose, she said. I just reached for what felt alive. Within weeks, she noticed not just more work, but better work. Clients who aligned with her values, projects that gave her space, deadlines with breathing room. Green didn't bring her more contracts. It brought her clarity. It filtered her field. It shifted her posture from survival to sustainability. That's the quiet power of wood energy. It doesn't chase opportunity, it grows toward it. In the 5 elements, wood is nourished by water and controlled by metal. That means energetically, green flourishes when there's fluidity in thought, water, and structure in action, metal. Too much rigidity, was metal, and the growth stalls. Too much emotion, water, and the roots rot. But in harmony, green thrives. It teaches us how to adapt. Think of bamboo, green and hollow, strong and flexible. It sways in storms and still stands tall. It is a symbol of resilience, not because it resists change, but because it flows with it. That's why green is such a powerful color to wear or incorporate during transitions. When you've left a job but haven't started the next one, when you're investing in a course, a passion, or a path that doesn't yet pay, but feels quietly right, when your energy is rebuilding after illness, heartbreak, or fatigue. Green doesn't say you're there, it says you're on your say. In clothing, green has nuance. Emerald speaks of richness, ideal for formal settings when you need to embody depth. Olive is grounding, perfect for quiet confidence. Mint or sage brings lightness, useful in creative meetings, brainstorming sessions, or personal rituals of renewal. Dark forest green conveys reliability without rigidity. It says, I'm listening, I'm growing, I'm here. Green is also ideal for negotiations that require long-term thinking, contracts that need care, relationships that need rebuilding. It creates emotional elasticity, the ability to hold tension without snapping, the wisdom to bend without breaking. In homes, green is best placed in the east and southeast, the areas of health and financial flow in Feng Shui's Bagua map. A small leafy plant in the east corner of your living room doesn't just clean the air, it strengthens the chi of beginnings. A framed landscape in green tones near your workspace doesn't just decorate, it signals growth. A piece of green fabric under your wallet or phone on your desk doesn't just soften the space, it invites aligned movement. What matters is not the object, but the intention. Green also interacts with the body in a quiet, intelligent way. In Chinese medicine, wood governs the liver, the organ of vision, planning, detoxification, and future orientation. People who wear or surround themselves with green often report better sleep, clearer decisions, and a more spacious internal dialogue. It is not stimulating like red. It is not contracting like black. It expands gently. It gives you space to breathe, literally and emotionally. Green doesn't perform. It persists. Green doesn't impress. It integrates. That's why it's so beneficial during financial uncertainty. Not to fix it, but to hold the space for better patterns to emerge. If your income is unpredictable, if your sense of self-worth is wobbly, if your career is shifting, green steadies you. It's the hand on your back that says, keep going. I remember a gardener in Tasmania who once told me, you don't grow cucumbers by shouting at them. You grow them by watering the soil every day, even when nothing shows up yet. Green is the color of that watering, that trust, that unseen effort. It's not the color of immediate payoff, it's the color of patient investment. That's what makes it so effective in rituals of healing. If you've been through a financial setback, bankruptcy, betrayal, burnout, green helps you hold your dignity. It doesn't ask you to bounce back, it asks you to root deeper. Even something as simple as a green journal, a green mug, a green stone like jade or aventurine on your nightstand, these are signals, not to the outside world, but to your nervous system. They say, we're not stuck, we're sprouting. Green is also the color of hope, not the naive kind, but the kind that remembers there is more, that what looks like winter is often just dormancy, that behind closed doors, things are preparing to begin again. And sometimes all you need is the courage to wear that truth on your body, to carry it in your field, to wear green not because it's in fashion, but because you are learning to believe in movement again. Green doesn't promise outcomes. It doesn't guarantee success, but it does whisper to your energy field, you're allowed to grow. And when energy hears that, wealth begins to move, not all at once, but inevitably, because in the language of the 5 elements, green doesn't ask, it invites. And fortune always responds to invitation faster than demand. So if you're in a space of beginning, however subtle, reach for green, not because it fixes, but because it feeds, because it aligns, because it allows. Because sometimes the most powerful financial decision isn't what you invest in, but how you dress the part of who you are becoming. And green holds that part with grace. 5. Red, energy that asks to be seen. Red is not just a color, it is an event. In the landscape of energy, red belongs to the fire element, the most expansive, visible, dramatic of the 5. Where earth holds, water reflects, metal refines, and wood ascends, fire declares. It is the energy of courage, momentum, visibility, and transformation. It does not hide. It does not wait. It enters the room before you do. And if not used wisely, it can exit with everything you've built. This is why red in Feng Shui and elemental theory is both celebrated and cautioned. It is not good luck in the way people often simplify. It is not a magnet for riches, love, or attention unless those things are already orbiting your field. What red does is amplify. It pushes forward. It makes louder. Red is the microphone. What you say into it, it will broadcast. If you wear red on a day when you feel focused, aligned, and generous, your energy lands like warmth, like invitation, like charisma. But if you wear red when you feel scattered, resentful, or uncertain, your energy lands like volatility. Red reveals the fire in you, but it does not shape it. That responsibility remains yours. In Feng Shui, red is used to awaken energy in areas that feel dull or unresponsive. A red envelope in the wealth corner, a red lantern at the front entrance, a red cloth beneath sacred objects. In clothing, it can do the same, but on the body, it is more personal, more direct. It changes how you're perceived, but more importantly, it changes how you act. Wearing red is not neutral. It signals something, sometimes even before you intend to. Red says, I'm here, I'm certain, I'm moving, which means if you're not yet feeling those things, red can overwhelm you. That's why, for many people, red is best worn in accents, rather than in full saturation. A red silk scarf wrapped at the throat when you need to speak with impact. A deep red bracelet during negotiations, lending courage without drawing attention. Even a red thread tucked into your pocket during job interviews or performances. Close enough to activate your energy, subtle enough not to drain it. Because red, like fire, uses oxygen. And that oxygen is your chi. In 5-element theory, fire is nourished by wood, growth, movement, and controlled by water, reflection, emotion. So red works best when you have already been growing, building, or preparing, and now need ignition. But when your energy is low, your nervous system overtaxed, or your emotions turbulent, red can overstimulate. It's the difference between lighting a candle in a quiet room and lighting a match in a windstorm. Red is not the color of comfort, it's the color of momentum. So if you're stepping into visibility, leading a team, presenting to investors, pitching a vision, red can anchor your fire. It says, I own this moment. But if you're stepping into rest, grieving, reflecting, or healing, red can rush what needs stillness. It says, be seen, when you might need to first feel safe. This is where moderation becomes wisdom. Not avoidance, just discretion. A woman I once worked with in New York came to me after a series of failed product launches. She was talented, articulate, ambitious, but every time she presented, something fell through. I asked about her preparation process, her mindset, her space. Then I asked, what do you wear when you pitch? She smiled. Red, always red. It's my power color. I paused. When you wear it, how do you feel? She hesitated. Like I'm forcing something. We explored further. She wasn't afraid of being seen. She was afraid of being misunderstood. She wore red to feel in control, but it was spotlighting her anxiety. It amplified not her clarity, but her inner chaos. We shifted to soft plum, still fire, but grounded with earth. She walked into her next presentation calmer. The deal closed. It wasn't the color that won the pitch. It was the alignment. That's the real wisdom. Red does not empower you. It reflects your readiness. If you want to use red well, ask yourself, am I ready to be seen? Do I want to lead this energy or just look like I'm leading? Am I willing to carry what this color might invite? Because red doesn't just call in attention. It calls in response. Pairing red with grounding colors like beige, charcoal, or chocolate gives it structure. Think of a fireplace. The fire exists within stone, controlled, purposeful, safe. But red with metallics, neon, or chaotic prints, that's wildfire energy. It can burn too fast, leave nothing behind but ash and adrenaline. There is nothing wrong with that, if that's the intention. But most people don't intend to burn out. They intend to break through, and that's where red, used wisely, becomes a powerful partner. For example, if you're launching a new business, red on your branding might attract fast visibility. But consider balancing it with a secondary tone that speaks of trust. If you're going on a first date, red lipstick may evoke attraction, but balance it with a grounded tone in your clothing to anchor the energy. Red says, "Look at me," but what people see, that's your responsibility. In physical spaces too, red must be placed with care. A red wall in a bedroom often overstimulates. A red doormat invites energy, but may feel abrupt. Better to use red in accents: a candle, a cushion, a framed symbol. The same rule applies to your wardrobe. You don't need to drape yourself in red to channel fire. You can carry a red stone, wrap a red string, even wear red undergarments to activate personal confidence without broadcasting it externally. It's not about costume, it's about current. Red is also tied to the heart in Chinese medicine, not just as an organ, but as a spirit center. In the 5-element model, the heart is the emperor. It governs clarity, joy, and spiritual connection. So when you wear red from a place of openness, generosity, and truth, it magnetizes. People feel you, trust you, follow you. But when red is used to hide insecurity, it backfires. Because red, unlike other colors, cannot soften. It either shines or sears. That's why fire signs, people born in dragon or snake years, or under Leo and Aries influences, often thrive in red. Their systems are already attuned to high vibration. But earth signs, ox, goat, may find red too activating. Water signs, pig, rat, may need red only in short, focused doses. Again, it's not about zodiac stereotypes. It's about energetic resonance. If red drains you, use it in pulses. If it strengthens you, toss it, carry you. But always check in, not just with how it looks, but how it feels. Because red isn't a color you wear, it's a current you ride. And the question is not, does red bring wealth? It's, do you have the rhythm to ride the wave it invites? In the end, red will not decide your fortune, but it will test your readiness. If you wear it well, not perfectly, but purposefully, it becomes a fire in the hearth. Warm, centered, capable of cooking your next chapter into being. But if you wear it recklessly, it becomes a fire without walls. And even the most beautiful flame is only useful when it doesn't consume you. So wear red when you're ready, not to force outcomes, but to illuminate presence. When you are clear on what you carry, it becomes your mirror. And when the mirror reflects alignment, energy moves. Fast, bold, transformative, just like fire. Yellow, the invitation to abundance. Yellow is not loud. It doesn't storm into the room. It doesn't pierce like red, nor dazzle like gold. It simply arrives, gently, warmly, like morning. Of all the colors rooted in Feng Shui's 5-element framework, yellow often goes underestimated. It lacks the drama of fire, the sleekness of metal, the mystery of water. But what it offers, quiet optimism, grounded confidence, and emotional nourishment, is perhaps more essential than we realize. In the elemental system, yellow corresponds with the earth element. But where brown represents its steady, stabilizing foundation, the soil, yellow is its sunlight, its joy, its breath of warmth that lets everything grow just a little bit more freely. To wear yellow is to carry a kind of emotional hospitality, not the forced enthusiasm of artificial cheerfulness, not the brightness that demands attention, but the radiance of something that uplifts without overpowering. Yellow doesn't shout, it smiles. It doesn't insist, it stays, until your energy softens enough to meet it. In Feng Shui, earth governs nourishment, home, relationships, and cycles of support. It asks us not to win, not to perform, but to sustain. And yellow, as its more expressive sibling, is a color that says, stay, linger, you're safe here. When we wear yellow, especially soft, warm tones like buttercream, marigold, or wheat, we emit more than color. We signal steadiness without rigidity, visibility without dominance. Yellow makes people lean in, not out of curiosity, but comfort, and that's where its power lies. Yellow doesn't convince people, it allows them. In high-pressure environments, teaching, negotiation, therapy, leadership, yellow has a unique effect. It opens the space without overextending it. It conveys clarity without cutting precision, and it builds trust not through intimidation, but through presence. A friend of mine, a conflict mediator in Chicago, shared with me that she never wears red or navy in client sessions. Too forceful, she said, too coated with hierarchy. But when I wear mustard yellow, she smiled, people talk. They lean back into their chairs. They stop trying to win. They start trying to understand. There is something in yellow that disarms the nervous system. Maybe it's because energetically yellow corresponds not just to earth, but to the stomach and spleen in traditional Chinese medicine. These are organs of digestion, not just of food, but of experience. Yellow doesn't rush us, it helps us process. And that's why I often recommend yellow, especially soft earth tone variations, for days when you need to both be seen and remain open. Not defensive, not performative, just steady. Teaching days, interview days, first meetings, client follow-ups, community gatherings. Yellow says, let's meet here. Not above, not below, but here. There's a subtle elegance to that. And it's personal too. When I wear yellow, especially soft golden hues, I find people linger. Conversations stretch just a little longer. Eye contact becomes more relaxed. It's as if yellow suspends time. Not in a magical way, but in a human one. When I wore yellow to my first workshop on energetic space design, I expected it to be a backdrop. I was more concerned with my outline, my materials, my pacing. But I noticed something strange. The room stayed quiet, attentive, not with stiffness, but ease. At break time, people approached gently, openly. No awkwardness, no guarded tones, just warmth. And I've worn yellow for almost every group session since. Not because it brings luck, but because it invites tone. There's also a reason many spiritual traditions use yellow or saffron in robes. Not just Buddhism, but also Jainism, parts of Hinduism and ancient Taoist orders. Yellow reflects devotion without ego. It is holy but not imposing. In that context, yellow represents surrender not to authority, but to presence. So when you put on yellow, you are, consciously or not, aligning with that vibration. A frequency that says, I am here to stay present, not to overpower. You aren't hiding, but you're not chasing either. You're holding space. Let's also talk about variations, because not all yellows speak the same. Bright lemon yellows have more air, more mental lift. They're ideal when your work requires mental dexterity, brainstorming, writing, strategizing. Wear lemon yellow when clarity is needed, but force would distract. Deeper mustard tones are ideal for authority with warmth. They hold weight without arrogance, perfect for leadership that leans toward collaboration over command. Soft pastel yellows, like a muted sunflower, support healing, especially useful when you're engaging with vulnerable people or transitioning from a difficult season. And ochre or goldenrod shades lend maturity. These are the yellows of autumn harvest, of steady returns. I often wear these during periods of reflection or when mentoring others through long-term decisions. In short, yellow has nuance, and we must wear it not only for color, but for timing. One client of mine, an herbalist in Portland, shared how she wore yellow head to toe after her divorce, hoping to force the light back in. But it overwhelmed her. She realized she needed earth before she needed sun. So she started with brown, a scarf, shoes, grounding textures. Then slowly she reintroduced yellow, in a bracelet, a necklace, a shawl. One morning she said, I looked in the mirror and the yellow didn't scare me anymore. It felt like a promise I could keep. That's the thing with energetic color. It doesn't lie. If you wear yellow from a place of depletion, it can expose you not to others but to yourself. But when you wear it as readiness, it becomes a companion, a quiet amplifier. Another layer to yellow, its interaction with space. A yellow jacket in a white-walled boardroom lifts the tone, but in a red-carpeted hallway, it can feel lost or too warm. Always consider contrast, not just for fashion, but for energy. Pair yellow with gray and you get balance. With blue, you get optimism. With green, a shared growth. With brown, stability. With red, caution. It can become overly loud. And with black, only if you're anchored enough to carry the tension. Yellow by itself holds light, but how it lands depends on what it's placed beside. So when you dress in yellow, ask yourself, am I here to open space or to hold it? Am I willing to be present without rushing? Can I radiate without performing? If yes, yellow may be your companion that day. Not because it will change your fate, but because it will honor your frequency. In a world rushing toward visibility, yellow teaches us about resonance. It reminds us, true influence isn't how loud we speak, but how long our tone stays and after the words have left. And yellow stays. Quietly, kindly, completely. Not for attention, but for alignment. 7. The colors to be mindful. With not all colors are designed to shine in the sun. Some belong to the hours just before dawn or the quiet moments just after dusk. They don't ask for applause. They listen, they hold, and in the language of energy, they carry a kind of gravity that can either deepen your presence or dim your fire. Let's talk about the heavy tones, black, cold gray, and deep purple. In a world that often praises brightness and clarity, these shades walk quietly in the margins. But they are not weak. Quite the opposite. They are among the most potent frequencies we can wear, but only when handled with discernment. Black in classical Feng Shui is associated with the water element. And like water, it is mysterious, profound, and easily misunderstood. Water, after all, is what carves mountains, feeds roots, and carries life. But water also drowns. It conceals. It erodes. To wear black is to engage with depth. But depth without clarity can become darkness. That's why black is rarely recommended as an everyday base color in Feng Shui-inspired wardrobe choices, especially for those navigating instability, illness, or emotional exhaustion. It doesn't cause harm on its own, but it amplifies the void if the wearer is not anchored. In energy work, we often say, black doesn't hide your feelings, it echoes them. Have you ever put on an all-black outfit hoping to feel strong, but ended up feeling invisible? Have you worn black in grief, only to find the sadness linger longer than expected? This isn't coincidence, it's chemistry between your chi and the color's current. I once worked with a financial strategist in San Francisco, a brilliant woman, fiercely capable but chronically overwhelmed. Her wardrobe was 90% black. Sharp silhouettes, clean lines, impeccable taste. But her energy was constantly tired. Not tired like sleep-deprived, but tired like emotionally underwater. We didn't start by changing her colors. We started by understanding them. She told me black feels like control, like I'm wrapped in something solid. But what she realized over time was that black was also a barrier. Not just between her and others, but between her and herself. It muted her intuition, her softness, her openness. She didn't abandon black, she reframed it. She began wearing it in moderation, paired with camel tones, warm whites, or forest greens. She added texture, knits instead of polished synthetics. She wore black skirts, but balanced them with linen tops. She kept her black blazer, but added a soft yellow brooch over the heart. And slowly, her tone shifted. She said, I still wear black, but now it's not a wall, it's a floor I can stand on. That is the right relationship with black, because when worn with intention, black is elegant. It anchors, it dignifies, it protects. It allows other colors to speak more clearly, like the stillness between musical notes. It is the comma in a sentence, the pause that gives everything else meaning. But it should not dominate unless your internal fire is strong enough to illuminate it. The same applies to cold grays. Gray is not just neutral, it is the space between. It is the fog before clarity. It is the quiet decision not yet made. And while it can bring refinement, balance, and restraint, it can also, if overused, dull the edges of confidence. Energetically, gray lacks warmth. It borrows from metal in Feng Shui terms, but doesn't carry its decisiveness. Instead, gray is more like ash, the remains of what once burned. This makes gray an excellent accent in times of reflection. A gray scarf while writing. A charcoal blouse on days when clarity is being summoned, not displayed. But a full gray outfit, especially in cold hues like slate or steel, can reduce energy, especially for those in transitional or emotionally fragile states. A friend of mine, a brand consultant in Sydney, found herself in a creative rut. Every morning she reached for gray. She said it made her feel professional but untouchable. It took her 6 months to realize she was dressing how she felt, stalled. She switched to pairing grays with burnt orange or soft turquoise. Nothing radical, but enough to invite warmth. Now, she said, gray feels like a canvas, not a cloud. Gray works best when it's a frame, not the whole picture. And then there's deep purple. Purple is complex. In ancient China, it was the color of the Forbidden City, the highest imperial hue. In Western traditions, it symbolizes royalty, wisdom, and spiritual maturity. In energy terms, it corresponds with the crown chakra, intuition, transcendence, connection to higher consciousness. But purple is also twilight, the moment before night falls. It asks us to turn inward, and when worn without readiness, it can evoke melancholy. That's why purple, especially in rich deep tones like eggplant or aubergine, should be approached with care. If you are preparing to retreat, to reflect, to study, or to let go, purple is your companion. If you are trying to launch, connect, or energize a crowd, perhaps not. I once taught a workshop on energetic wardrobe choices in Seoul, where a young man wore a long purple coat to the first session. He looked regal, but withdrawn. He said he felt too far from the room. By the second day, he switched to indigo denim and a soft white sweater. He didn't say anything, but when he walked in, the energy was different. Present, open. That is the dance with purple. It's a powerful teacher, but not always a gentle one. So what can we do? First, treat these tones like spices, not meals. Use them where they serve, not where they swallow. A black belt to ground a cream outfit, a gray vest layered over a warm blouse, a purple scarf during meditation, then replaced by something lighter before a meeting. Second, pair them with balancing textures and materials. Soft cashmere instead of stiff wool. Linen instead of polyester. Matte finishes instead of gloss. Let the color hold weight, but not tension. Third, ask yourself why you're choosing it. Are you hiding or protecting? Are you centering or collapsing? Are you pausing or withdrawing? Color answers the questions we don't speak aloud. In terms of occasion, wear black when you need presence, not persuasion. When you are navigating complexity, not seeking attention. When you are mentoring, not marketing. Wear gray when you're building frameworks, not launching campaigns. When you're editing, not performing. When you need neutrality to return to clarity. Wear purple when you are offering depth, not speed. When you are grieving, reflecting, or guiding others inward. But do not live in these colors without breaks. Balance black with earth tones, browns, olives, ochres. Balance gray with sky colors, blues, soft greens. Balance purple with golds, whites, and warm textures. And above all, wear them with consciousness. Because these colors, unlike red or yellow, don't draw energy toward you. They require you to generate it from within. If your chi is steady, black will dignify it. If your vision is clear, gray will frame it. If your spirit is open, purple will deepen it. But if you are unsure, exhausted, or adrift, these colors can make the silence louder. So pause, listen, adjust. Because color, like energy, doesn't ask permission to speak. It just does. And we, whether we know it or not, are always in conversation with what we wear. 8. Everyday pairings for intentional energy. We rarely choose colors in isolation. Even when we think we're reaching for one hue, it's always in dialogue with the others around it. Just as a note in music is not itself until it meets the silence that frames it. And just as fortune is not only about effort, but timing, intention, and environment, the power of color lies not just in singular tone, but in how tones collaborate. White and green. One clears, one grows. Together, they speak of fresh starts, not frantic, but focused. White, in the five-element tradition, belongs to metal, clarity, structure, boundaries. Green is wood, expansion, upward movement, possibility. When paired, they represent disciplined creativity, the mind that plans and the spirit that sprouts. It's the energy of a blank notebook page and the first green shoot of spring breaking through soil. Not yet loud, but full of promise. This combination suits the beginning of projects or conversations that require vision and resilience. A white shirt in a jade pendant, a green scarf tied over a light trench. It's what you wear when you are planting the seeds of something new, not to impress, but to align. Brown and gold. This is a pairing for those who aren't chasing flash, but foundation. Brown as earth offers nourishment, support, and quiet gravity. Gold, whether symbolic or in tone, activates the metal element. Refinement, value, recognition. Together, they say, wealth that stays begins in soil that holds. These colors belong to builders, not necessarily of houses, but of systems, of habits, of quiet empires. You'll find this in the office of an elder accountant in Bangkok who's never missed a ledger entry, or in the kitchen of a grandmother who wraps each bain chung with hands that remember famine, but cook with joy. Wear this when you are negotiating, not just for now, but for 10 years from now. When you're choosing stability over spotlight, a camel coat with brass buttons, a sand-colored blouse with a subtle gold necklace passed down from someone who never raised her voice, but always had the final word. Red and beige. This is fire wrapped in earth. A flare, grounded. Red, the color of attention, courage, and active momentum. Beige, often overlooked, but energetically stable, soft and absorbent. The energy here is leadership with humility, drive with composure. It's the entrepreneur who walks into the room knowing what they want, but doesn't need to shout to get it. A red pocket square in a tan blazer, a beige shift dress with a red belt worn not to seduce, but to signal. I know what I'm here for. This combination is especially potent for those who often feel too much or too quiet. It creates balance so that your fire doesn't scorch and your steadiness doesn't stall. Wear it when you need to assert, but not agitate. When you're meeting resistance, but know the room needs warmth, not heat. Yellow and blue. This is clarity that smiles. Yellow, as the earth element in its most radiant form, lifts. Blue, subtly aligned with water, cools and calms. When combined, they speak of inspired leadership, vision that listens. It's the color of the teacher who makes every student feel seen. The manager who knows how to pause mid-sentence and ask the right question. The artist who never hurries but whose work carries light. Think soft golden earrings with a navy wrap, a lemon scarf paired with a denim jacket. This isn't a loud combination, but it lingers. It says, you can trust me to brighten your day, but not burn it. Now let's talk timing. Even the most harmonized colors lose their strength when worn out of rhythm. A sweater may be warm, but if it's July, it feels heavy. The same is true of energetic tones. In the language of the seasons, spring belongs to wood. Green thrives here, not neon, but leaf-toned, sap-colored, the kind that mimics renewal. This is the season for new clients, fresh initiatives, untested dreams. Green helps them root without rushing. Summer is fire. Red belongs here, but so does coral, rose, and rust. Let your wardrobe radiate during these months, but don't overwhelm your system. Fire in excess consumes itself, so use it wisely. A single ember is sometimes more effective than a bonfire. Autumn returns us to earth and metal, browns, golds, creams, and pale metallics. This is a season of discernment, of harvest, of pruning what no longer serves. These tones support reflection, refinement, and the quiet courage to let go. Winter is the realm of water. Here we return to stillness. White, black, and deep indigo carry us inward, not for stagnation, but gestation. This is when you recalibrate, when you wear colors that speak not to the room but to the silence inside you. Understanding seasonal flow isn't about fashion calendars, it's about energy hygiene. A client once told me that he wore red year-round to stay motivated, but by winter he was burnt out. His ambitions hadn't failed, but his energy had. When he began syncing his color palette with seasonal rhythms, pastel greens in spring, muted reds in summer, bronze tones in fall, soft blacks and whites in winter, he found that he didn't have to push so hard. The colors carried part of the load, and that's the point. Color should support you, not perform for you. It's not just what people see, it's what your nervous system absorbs. If you're in a season of beginnings, wear green and white. If you're in a season of repair, turn to browns and soft golds. If you need to show up in a full flame, just doing red and beige will help, but only if your core is calm. If you need to hold space to lead with presence, yellow and blue will whisper more than shouting ever could. But always ask, what do I need to feel, not just to be seen? Because the most powerful wardrobe isn't the one that gets compliments. It's the one that gets you closer to alignment without noise. And alignment is where fortune waits. 9. Real-life reflection. There's a small lantern shop tucked between the more photogenic cafes in the old quarter of Hoi An. One of those quiet spaces that doesn't shout for attention, but hums gently with care. It belonged to a woman in her early 60s, a widow who had run it alone since her husband passed 5 years earlier. The space itself was neat, filled with silk lanterns and soft apricot tones, old wooden shelves rubbed smooth from time and repetition, and a bell above the door that never startled, only shimmered faintly when someone walked in. Every day she arrived at the shop early, before the streets came alive with tourists and bicycles, before the coffee pots steamed or incense curled from nearby shrines. She would unlock the metal gate, sweep the front step with the same slow rhythm her husband once used, and settle behind the wooden counter to prepare tea. She had long accepted that Mondays were slow. Dead, she sometimes muttered. No matter how early she opened, how beautifully she arranged her displays, or how fresh the lantern dyes were, Mondays resisted commerce. It was a fact she didn't question. Just like the way she always wore black, pressed cotton shirts and loose slacks, comfortable and modest, respectable, neutral, safe. Then one day her niece visited from Hanoi, a fashion student with too many bracelets and a tendency to talk too fast. She watched the shop for an hour on a Monday morning and then gently asked, "Why do you always wear black?" The shopkeeper looked puzzled. "It's clean, simple, professional." Her niece nodded, then said something strange. "But it tells people not to come in." This wasn't criticism, it was observation. And for days after, it lingered in the shopkeeper's mind. Could a color say something before she ever spoke? Could a shirt suggest silence, even when her door was open, her hands ready? The following Monday, almost with embarrassment, she tried something new. A pale yellow blouse with white embroidery along the sleeves. It felt strange at first, like she was pretending to be more cheerful than she felt. But by noon, she had sold 3 small lanterns. By 3 p.m., a French tourist asked to buy the plant at her window. "It just feels lucky in here," the woman said. The shopkeeper smiled, and when she closed that night, she didn't sweep mechanically. She hummed. The following week, she wore the same blouse again, then alternated with a white linen tunic. Within a month, she noticed something. Foot traffic had increased, not drastically, but meaningfully. People lingered longer, spoke more, looked up at the hanging lanterns instead of just scrolling past on their phones. The shop didn't suddenly become famous, but it became seen. Psychologically, color acts faster than words. A passerby doesn't analyze a storefront consciously in 5 seconds. They feel it. They interpret through light, texture, scent, and yes, hue. When the dominant field is black, the subconscious mind registers caution, stillness, introspection. Not danger, but distance. It doesn't push people away, but it doesn't pull them close. It's not unlike tone of voice. A whisper isn't wrong, but in a crowded street, no one hears it. Now apply this to money. Fortune in classical energetic systems doesn't always move toward noise, but it moves toward receptivity. Spaces and people that are clear, aligned, and resonant tend to attract more opportunities than those that are fragmented or unreadable. Wearing black to feel safe is valid, but if you're also hoping to invite collaboration, interaction, or purchase, there may be a silent conflict between your appearance and your intention. That was the subtle tension the shopkeeper unknowingly lived with. She worked hard, curated beautiful wares, opened her doors each morning, but her personal signal whispered not today. And that's where this story finds its lesson. Not in fashion, but in alignment. When she shifted from black to yellow and white on Mondays, she didn't change her strategy. She didn't lower prices or buy ads or renovate her storefront. She simply stopped muting herself. And as she became more visible, not just to others, but to herself, her relationship with the business changed. She started placing fresh flowers in the entryway. She began offering tea samples again. She restrung the bell above the door so it chimed more clearly. These were not cosmetic updates. They were echoes of a deeper shift. Color is not cosmetic when worn with consciousness. It is a soft instrument, a tuning fork for energy. A yellow shirt doesn't promise a sale, but it might soften someone's posture, prompt a question, invite a pause. A white sleeve doesn't guarantee success, but it may clear the emotional space around a conversation, reduce static, and allow the next right moment to land. We don't always know what moment will change a day or a life, but we can shape the space into which that moment arrives. That's what the shopkeeper learned. Now let's zoom out. In energetic systems like Feng Shui, color posture, form direction, and rhythm are not abstract theories. They are expressions of relationship to self, to space, to others. A garment is not just protection from weather. It's the banner of your current state. When chosen with care, it becomes a collaborator. This is not about never wearing black. Black is elegant, powerful, refining. But when worn unconsciously, especially on days when one hopes for growth, it can close more than it opens. Similarly, red can energize, but if worn when agitated, it can amplify distress. Green nourishes, but worn too softly on days of confrontation, it may dim needed boundaries. The secret is not in the color, it's in the calibration. How does what you wear align with what you are seeking? Do your garments support your energy or contradict it? That shopkeeper didn't become someone else when she wore yellow. She remembered a part of herself she hadn't spoken with in years. The part that once laughed with her husband behind the counter. The part that used to call out greetings instead of waiting for others to speak first. The part that still wanted to grow but didn't know how to say so. And the blouse helped her say it. Not loudly, but clearly. She still wears black, on Sundays mostly, on days she wants to rest, to read, to remember. But on Mondays, her old quiet day, she wears yellow. And now, so do her sales. Final, so we return now, not to an answer, but to a question that lingers more gently. What are you truly wearing each day? Is it protection, memory, desire? Are you cloaking yourself in quiet hope or old habits? In the rhythm of life, we often rush to dress for the world, to appear ready, appropriate, approved. But rarely do we pause to ask, is this color holding me back or opening me up? Is it echoing who I've been or inviting who I'm becoming? Because color, when seen through the lens of energy, is more than surface. It is signal. And when chosen with awareness, it becomes one of the most tender ways we speak with our surroundings. This isn't about dressing to impress. It's about aligning to express. So tomorrow morning, before you reach for your usual blouse or shirt, take a breath. Notice what your body is asking for. Not your calendar, not your mirror, but your own subtle current. Maybe today asks for grounding. Maybe tomorrow asks for courage. Maybe next week invites stillness. What if your clothing became a form of prayer, not to Maz, but to growth? What if it became a thread that stitched your intention into every step you took? We don't wear color to be noticed. We wear it to remember what we are ready to hold, what we are ready to shed, what we are quietly becoming. So I ask you gently, what color are you most drawn to lately? And what might that be whispering back? If this video stirred something within you, an insight, a memory, a quiet yes, I invite you to share it in the comments. What have you noticed about your own color patterns? What has changed for you when you shifted what you wore? Your story might be the reflection someone else needs. And if you'd like to keep walking this path with me, where space, energy, and everyday life begin to speak the same language, please consider liking this video, sharing it with someone you care about, and subscribing to New Day Mindfulness. Your presence here helps this channel reach our first 1,000 followers, not for vanity, but for voice. Because we're not just building an audience, we're weaving an atmosphere, one insight at a time, one gentle color at a time, and always one new day at a time.